Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, but most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals on this show, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Tuesday, everybody. What an eventful way to start out Q4 here, ladies and gentlemen. It is, Corey, you're right, man. Happy spooky season, all. As you guys all know, and we're going to get to some of the stuff on the port strike. I think, I'm not going to just talk about the port strike literally every single day on this show until it's resolved or anything like that. I just feel like there's a lot of stuff out there that could still happen, and I really don't want to overdo it right away, because like this very well could get resolved. And I know that there's a lot of stuff out there that you hear that they're not even close and everything else, but this very well could be resolved in a couple of days for all we know. And I don't want to overemphasize on this if it gets worked out. But starting next week, I'll probably have, if it does, if it continues to go out there, I will have some more maritime experts come on the show and talk about that, just to kind of provide some further guidance on it. And but I also kind of wanted to get in my friends over at Green Screens. Obviously, as you guys know, they're right there. I use them in my business, you guys. I actually quote my freight. And if you guys are newer to the show, I am actually a freight broker. For my driver friends out there, you guys might not like this, but I am an actual freight broker. I am moving freight actively every single day, and I'm bidding on it. And I use Green Screens to do all of that. And then they, on their guys' website, or on their website, it's greenscreens.ai. They have market trends out there. And there's some really good data they sent over to me. It's all on their website as well, but I just want to bring this up. I want to bring up a port closure market update on kind of like where things are. And then I'm going to give you guys my honest assessment on what could possibly happen here with it. But the September overall takeaways is that downward trends in pricing continue. So van rates dropped 5.6%, reefer 2.4%, flatbed 3.8%. Year over year is indicate a stronger negative values. Van is down almost 7%. Reefer is at 4% even, and then flatbed is at 5.1%. And then the Southeast is showing the greatest weakness in van and reefer rates at down 7%, 7 to 10.5% relative to 2024 first half of the year baseline. The outlook on this is that it does continue to trend downward across all modes. Van 5.6, reefer 2.4, and flatbed 3.8. Year over year comparative in the South and Southeast are showing the downward trend in these regions is somewhat unexpected. However, given the political and economic uncertainties ahead, they are not too surprising. These results support the common industry outlooks for a weak to flat Q4 with optimism heading into 2025. And, the good thing about Green Screens here, you guys, not only are they a pricing platform, but they publish a ton of data on there as well. And it's just on their website, greenscreens.ai/market-trends/September trends 2024. And then if you're on YouTube right now, I'm going to drop this because YouTube's the only one that allows me to put links and stuff in the chat. So you guys can go and check that out on there. There's the website. And then they have some historical data on there as well. They got, June, July, May, August, all that stuff out there. So check that out, you guys. It's a good way to really predict kind of how things are going. And I'm still seeing an extremely soft market out there as a whole. And again, obviously, here's the caveat. This is pre everything that just started last night at midnight. I was seeing a ton of, it's very soft out there. And rates are definitely dropping. The and they are continuing to drop, it looks like. And I don't know what's going to happen. But, as I've said on the show in the past, you guys, I truly think that this is going to be normal here for the foreseeable future. I think that, there's a lot riding on interest rates being at what they are. It costs a lot of money to store inventory for an extended period of time. So I think that there's a lot that's kind of riding on these next couple of months on what could happen in the election. Now, if Trump wins, is it going to immediately improve everything the day after? No, I think that anybody with half a brain realizes that this is going to probably take a while to recover. So when I say I think 2025 might look like 2024, I'm not saying that in a negative light. I just realistically think it's going to take a while to improve. And like I've said in the past, is I think what it's going to be, though, is, when there is an increase in price, and I think it's going to be, a penny here, maybe 5 cents a mile there. And then after like a certain time frame, people are going to be like, holy shit, rates are up 35 cents year over year. And then there's all going to be talk about this recovery. I just don't think that there's going to be a massive increase in prices anytime soon. I wouldn't be surprised if all of 2025 is flat and it's very consistent with the way that things are performing right now. I think there's a lot riding on that. And now, with that being said, that was all pre everything that happened at midnight. That's my stance. And now today, I think with everything that's going on, again, if this is prolonged, we will see a nationwide effect on the market. I truly feel that way. But this could kind of get wrapped up here pretty quick. I don't know of anybody who is going to accurately predict it. I think that what we are going with. So I think that, right now everybody on social media is a labor union expert. They're a port expert. There's a ton of experts out there now. I think if you are looking for anybody to follow during this time, so the people that I go to for anything maritime, for me, Lauren Began is the first person I would follow if I were you. Steve Ferreira is another guy who is very highly connected in the ocean maritime industry as well. These guys are on LinkedIn. Lauren was just on my show a couple of days ago. Those are two people that I very highly respect and I think are extremely credible. Now, when it comes down to news sources, I truly feel like the JOC is the top one to follow in this. All right. The S&P is their parent company. They have a ton of information and data out there in regards to everything maritime. So I would highly recommend following them as well. And, again, FreightWaves will do their due diligence on some of these articles and they will put that out there. Those are the people that I would look out for first, though, because again, it's going to get very easy to get caught up in all of this stuff out there. And it's very challenging to decipher what is real, what is not real, what's actually happening. So I think in times like this, when there is a ton of uncertainty that's going on out there, we really, really need to focus on getting the right information because, there's a lot of people's livelihoods who are affected by this, a ton of people's livelihood. And I think that social media kind of exacerbates a lot of this stuff. And you really need to know kind of like who to reach out for and who to follow in these moments about kind of like what's real and what's not and what's actually happening. Now, for those of you who look to me for all that information, because, I'm pretty fucking good at what I do. I do have an article here that talks about what it is about, like, why are they going on strike right now? Okay. Because that was another big one that I'm seeing out there. Is why are they going on strike and everything else? So with why they are going on strike, and I'm going to do my absolute best to keep my personal biases of unions out of this. But, the big sticking point on a lot of this is wages and automation. I will wholeheartedly agree with the union statement, and I'm almost surprising myself when I say this. But that automation, out here. So dock work, this article was from TT News. I got one from TT News and I got one from the JOC. This one from the TT News is, that they want a new contract, that their automation hurts families And then the local president said workers want a fair contract that doesn't allow automation of their jobs. Shipping companies made billions, and now we want them to pay us back, and they're going to pay back. This is not something that you start and stop. The union's opening offer was talks of a 77% pay raise. All right. Over a 6-year life of the contract, with President Harold Daggett saying that it's necessary to make up for inflation and years of small raises. I think a good point to do right here is all the union members ratified and signed off on their previous labor agreement. Okay. So to talk about small raises, the union themselves negotiated those raises. And then it goes on to say that, ILA members make a base salary of about $81,000 a year, but some can pull in over $200,000 annually with large amounts of overtime. But the evening last night, the Alliance said it had increased its offer to 50% raises over 6 years, and it pledged to keep limits on automation in place from the old contract. The union wants a complete ban of automation. It wasn't clear just how far both sides were. We are hopeful that this could allow us to fully resume collective bargaining around the outstanding issues in an effort to reach an agreement. And then in a statement on early this morning, the union said it rejected the Alliance's latest proposal because it fell far short of what they are demanding in regards to wages. And he says that Daggett says we are prepared to fight as long as necessary to stay on strike for whatever period it takes to get the wages and protections. And he says they must now meet our demands for this strike to end, which, again, obviously the union's going to say what they want, but I agree with the point of automation, right? Because I'm a fan of automation, and I've stated this on the show numerous times, but it's to a point, right? And I see what they're talking about here, because there are some ports that are fully automated, not in the United States, but in other parts of the world. And if that's your trade, I fully understand why they would want to slow automation, or, in regards to this, it looks like stop all automation entirely, which I don't think is really possible. But I think when it comes down to it, stopping automation to a point to preserve jobs for the union members, I completely understand that stance. I really do. Because I think that, with all of this talk about AI and automation and everything else, I think some people tend to forget that one day they could legitimately automate all of us out of jobs. And then what are we going to do, right? As human beings, what are we going to do all day long? So it's like, I get that, right? And I truly understand why they are doing it. I think that it got, excuse me, I think that, it's not just the union's fault that they're on strike, and it's not just the Alliance. Like, there's a lot of parties that are involved in this, and I blame everybody equally, right, for getting to this point. And I think some comparisons here to what happened in 2021 and in 2020 and everything is, at least in my opinion, the saving grace here is that the West Coast ports are open. They can't shut down, right. They already went through this stuff. I think it was in 2022 or 2023. But so the West Coast ports are at least still open, right? So there's a saving grace from that. Now, yeah, there's some people that reroute and everything else, and there's a lot of stuff that could happen to at least have the flow of goods come through still, which it's not an outright stoppage. And I know that there's a lot of stuff out there about, stocking up on everything. And obviously everybody's got to do what they got to do. I guess from my stance, if I had young children, baby wipes, diapers, formulas, I'd probably buy extra right now just to be safe, right? Because if that's how they get fed, that's how they get fed. And I would, because babies can't eat fucking mac and cheese and shit. So I would look at it from that perspective. But I think that, there's a lot of hypotheticals right now about what could happen on how long this could get drug out for, or if this is something that they're going to quickly resolve. Because I think ultimately, what is not being discussed is like the ultimate factor, right? That money controls everything. And that some of these companies who are, because you're going to see a bunch of people in the union that are on the news, but they're all, even the president of the ILA, in my opinion, answers to somebody at some point. And eventually it could get to a point. But again, there's a lot of uncertainty here, and I don't really want to jump to conclusions. Yes, this is a very big deal. Yes, this could have a massive negative effect on this, but equally, this could literally get resolved at any given fucking moment, right? Like, so that's just what these strikes are. And then some good, here's another thing though, from the JOC, you guys, this article was about conflicting post pandemic worldviews bring this strike to light. And then it goes on saying here that, it's that obviously the wages, benefits, and automation. And then it's Joe Biden, President Biden said, I don't believe in Taft-Hartley. Obviously, we talked about that. Taft-Hartley Act is the president can force workers to go back to work, right? In the events of like national security and everything else. And, with all that storms and everything that went through, I think that there's a lot of people out there who could probably argue that we're in a time of crisis right now in certain parts of the country. And then it goes on to say, if carrier, I'm just settle or not. Here we go. And then settling with the union was the implicit suggestion of William Doyle, who's the former U.S. Federal Maritime Commission. The 5 people in the world who can stop this madness to either avert or end job action if it begins are the following, Doyle wrote, listing global CEOs of CMA, CGM, MSC, Costco, not the grocery chain, COSCO, Ocean Network Express, and Maersk by name in Saturday's LinkedIn post. Daggett also believes that the ball's in the carrier's court. Estimated that at a combined $400 billion for showing up on the docks, keeping trade flowing during an emergency. Everybody who went to work during COVID, nobody stayed at home. I want to be compensated for that. He goes on to say, so, again, those are 2 kind of updates from TT News and then from the JOC. And those are the news sources. I didn't have time to get over to FreightWaves to check out and see what articles they had on that. But, again, I'm going to continue to talk about this, but it's not going to be my daily topic of conversation. I will have other subject matter experts come on the show to talk about that in the event that this starts going into a second week. Again, like I said, I don't want to just only talk about this because at the end of the day, yeah, they're in an impasse. Yeah, they're on strike, but this very well could get wrapped up pretty soon. And I got other shit I got to worry about here too. So, anyways, Uma, what's up? She says, good morning. Remember that God only gives you obstacles that he knows you can handle. He does this to help you understand your own strengths and your level of intelligence. Stay strong. We got this. Amen to that, Uma. I couldn't agree with that statement more. Michael Cole, happy day 1, folks. How's everyone doing? And then he said, amen to Uma. But, again, I think that one of the topic of the show today is that change is the only constant in life, right? Like, I think that there's always something that could happen. And, I know, because like, to be fully transparent, you guys, drayage is a decent portion of my business right now, right? And it is definitely being affected by this, but I also look at it, again, into controlling my controllables, right? Like I didn't do anything that caused this, right? I really feel for the drayage carriers a lot, especially the ones that I work with that are now kind of like, well, what do we do here, right? And there's going to be another, a mad dash to get a lot of this stuff back that was getting offloaded, get these containers, and then it's a giant waiting game, right? So it's like, what are they going to do during this time frame? And again, I think it's like, again, change, adapt. What is it that you can do? I think that if you look from I don't want to call it a saving grace or anything like that, but is there some power only moves that you can start doing? You might need to go outside of your normal comfort zone, but I think that there's going to be some freight out there that you could possibly start moving, again, and it's like, this might also open up a brand new business opportunity for you that you didn't even know exists, right? So it's like, when things happen, you can let it cripple you, or you can let that next pivot that you make be the right pivot in your business that now takes you up to the next level, So it's like, I'd like to hold myself to the standard of like, I don't change the way I act regardless of how the market is, right? Like, I'm going to continue to hold myself accountable to make my sales outreaches. I'm going to follow up with all my customers. I'm going to talk to all of my carriers, especially the drayage carriers that we work with, and see, hey, how can we help you during this time, right? Like, what are you willing to do in the event that we see an opportunity that fits inside of that? Are you willing to do some of that additional freight? But again, I think that it's also an opportunity to start looking into other things. But like I said, you got to hold yourself to a certain standard no matter what, because ultimately you're never good in business. At least from my perspective, you're never good. You're never at a point where you can just sit back and kick your feet up and just put it on cruise control, because the second you think that is the second that everything starts to deteriorate, in my opinion. You have to be on offense at all times. There's a saying, all gas, no brakes. And I truly feel that from my perspective, I'm going to continue to do what I do, right? Because I can't control that. I can't control that flow of goods was shut off from my business. And it was of no fault of mine. It was of no fault to our carriers. And frankly, it was of no fault to our customers either, right? Like, there are some parties that are in control of the situation that are being affected by it. But now I'm going to continue to do what I do, right? So this is why I never stop prospecting, you guys. All right. I never stop prospecting. And I know what it's like, because a lot of people, they sell, then they get that one account that kind of like accounts for a lot of their profits. 80-90% of their book of business is wrapped up in one account. And then they think like, I'm just going to stick with this. I don't need to sell anymore. These people are going to be with me for life. And I think that a lot of people, if your book of business was upended by this needs to be yet another reminder that you're never good in business, and you have to continue to sell. Because, again, you guys, if you look at it, and if you're now today, like, shit, my world fell apart yesterday, I got to start selling again tomorrow. Like, there's people out there that have never stopped selling, so, and like, this is why I sit here and I never stop reaching out. I never stop prospecting, you guys, because of events like this. There's a lot of stuff that's outside of our control, whether you're a driver, a manufacturer, a broker. There's a lot of stuff that's outside of your control, and you have to keep your pipeline full, you guys. You really do, because at any given moment, it could be a port strike. It could be somebody leaving their job. It could be a cost reduction measure. There could be a myriad of different things out there, and you don't want to be stuck holding the bag. Essentially, you really don't. So it's like, change is going to be the only constant in your adult life, and especially in business and everything else. And I truly feel that way. And let this be yet another lesson to never slow down, and to never stop, and to never think that you're in a good spot. Because the second you do, again, there's a lot of stuff that can happen. There really is. And Cody, don't ever let a good crisis go to waste. There's an opportunity in everything. That's exactly it, right? And, and this very well, like I said the other day, this very well could be the thing that like tips things into a different direction in the market, right? Again, I think it's still yet to be seen. The longer this drags out, though, the more and more pivots people are going to have to start making in their business, right? Maybe, in the interim, some people are going to charter some 747s and air freight all their stuff in. I don't know, right? Some people have the budget for that. Some people are going to now buy everything and have it imported in through the West Coast and have it, cross-docked and drayed, cross-docked, and then shipped out on a truck out of LA. There's people who are going to pivot out there. And then who knows? There's also a large amount of people who are like, maybe they're going to now push down into Mexico, and they're, manufacturing in Mexico and everything else. Like, there's changes that are going to be made from this, right? And then any change out there in the overall way that things were flowing, I think could benefit the hungry in this market. I really do. If you're willing to change the way you're doing things, if you're reaching out to as many people as possible, because it's only a matter of time before somebody's going to be in a predicament where they need a new provider to come in and help them out, because their current network, maybe only service the West Coast or the East Coast. And now they need to start importing stuff from the West Coast and having it trucked in, right? So it's like, again, the market could shift with this, all right? The landscape of how things are could shift with this. And you need to ask yourself, are you in that position right now to potentially be in the right place at the right time? Or are you just going to sit back and wait, right? Like, I don't have that luxury. I do not have that luxury to sit back and wait. I got a family to feed. I got a business to build, and I'm going to continue to do what I do every single day. And I think that it's, again, look at your internal process. you're going to have, if your business is affected by this right now, you're going to have a lot of time on your hands. You're going to have a lot of time to think, though, and that could be a good or a bad thing, right? I think that what you need to focus in on is like that consumption thing, because everybody right now on social media is going to be a fucking expert on all of this shit. They're all going to be talking out of their ass. 99% of the people are going to be talking out of their ass. Some people are going to throw on a fucking safety vest and a hard hat and then start creating content at the port and act like a fucking port expert, right? So just pay attention to that. Like I said, I already listed off those people on who I would do. But again, look into, podcasts, books, all of that. Really control your controllables there, you guys. I truly feel that way, because it's just can be overly consuming at times, and it can seem extremely helpless out there, that there's no opportunities and that everything's falling apart. And it's not, right? It's never as bad as we think, but it's also never as good as we think. And that's why we have to continuously show up every single day and hold ourselves to a higher standard to put in our work. Uma Taylor said she just saw that the Port of Houston is not going to charge ocean carriers for storage days on the days terminals are closed. Do your research and see if the same is happening at your port. Knowledge is power. Don't be blinded by BS charges that ocean carriers are going to ask you to pay because they want to make an extra buck. Yes, go to all those ports. So I do a lot of work out of the Port of Savannah. The Port of Savannah has that listed on there as well. I think I saw something like one of the ports, I think it was Norfolk, excuse me, they had one as well. So go to the port's website, right? Port of Charleston, Port of Savannah, Port of Jacksonville, whatever that is, and find out about all of that stuff and then present all of that information to your customers. But that's going to be it for today, you guys, because I got to get after it. I got freight moving, right? Because your boy actually moves freight. And we got to get some stuff done. But yeah, I got guests coming on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I got a shipper coming on Friday too, you guys. So if you guys have any questions that you want to ask an enterprise level shipper, drop them in the chat on Friday's show. DM them over to me. He's a good friend of mine. No, this is not a opportunity for you to solicit his business. But if you have any questions you want an actual verifiable shipper to answer, come to the show on Friday or DM them to me and I will ask them. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.